Hey guys, welcome back to another. Welcome to episode 207 of the Hurricane Mike Show, where we got a lot of things to discuss. But first, Dad, I was doing some digging, right? And it has just occurred to me that Cam Jordan, he done said he would never put on the red because why, Dad?
Because red is too much like that team in Atlanta that sucks a lot.
Right. You know, whatever be happening. But yeah, anyway, so let's get started. We got a few things to discuss. All right, our first segment is going to be on Alvin Kamara. Now we talk about this like almost every show, but in case some people didn't watch the shows, we like to bring it up sometimes. Dad, do you think Alvin Kamara will be cut before the season?
Cut? I mean, he's not even on the contract, right?
No, he's under contract.
Yeah. Well, if he's on the contract, I think he's going to come to training camp. I mean, I don't think he's going to be cut before the season. I think they want him in camp, in that lineup, first day of the regular season, week 1. I think we're going to see Alvin Kamara and HN better in the backfield.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people get confused. Cam Jordan, he's the one that's not under contract, but Kamara still has another year under his deal. But yeah, I don't think Kamara will be cut. What's good, Jerry? How you doing, my brother? I don't think Kamara's going to be cut. I think Kellen Moore really likes Kamara, and I think he wants to utilize Kamara, especially with the young running backs that we have. Kendre, Devin Neal, Ty Chandler, and even Travis Etienne. Like, Kamara can be that mentor for some of these younger running backs on the roster. Now, Alvin Kamara and the New Orleans Saints are in a weird situation, all right? As AK is on a contract like I was just talking about, but nobody has made a commitment. So let's talk about, like, what's the future of this whole situation? Well, the Saints restructured Kamara's contract in a way that provides flexibility if he's not with the team. And some of the insiders that we make posts around the Saints said that the expectation is something happens before post June 1st. And the Saints signed Travis Etienne, which is the biggest key in all of this. If the Saints didn't sign Etienne, I don't think nobody's talking about this, but that's the big key to this. Now, Mickey Loomis did talk about Alvin Kamara's future. And he said, and I quote, "We're just trying to see how he's going to fit on our roster. Obviously, there's a resource management element to it. We'll get to that over the next week or two. Let's talk about the resource management. Why not? Alvin Kamara's future will come down to finances. All right, Saints OTAs are May 27th, May 28th, June 1st, June 3rd, June 4th, June 8th, June 10th, and June 11th. If Alvin Kamara is willing to take a pay cut, I feel he will have a spot on the roster. All right. But another thing, let's talk about the Saints running back depth chart. So running back 1 is obviously going to be Travis Etienne. Running back 2 right now is Alvin Kamara. Running back 3 is Devin Neal. Running back 4, Kendre Miller. Running back 5, Audric Estime. Running back 6, Ty Chandler. And running back 7, C.J. Donaldson. Kellen Moore said the Saints are getting close to a decision on Alvin Kamara. As Kellen Moore also talked about Alvin Kamara's future, where he ended up saying, "I think part of the offseason process during phase 3 is you're still going through a little bit of the building process, still finalizing some things. And so that comes with time. But yeah, we're getting close." So here's AK's future. There's only 3 options here. Either he takes a pay cut, he gets cut post June 1st, or he gets traded post June 1st. Now, the last 4 seasons of Alvin Kamara's career. In 2022, he played 15 games where he had 223 carries, 897 rushing yards, 490 receiving yards, and 4 total touchdowns. 2023 played in 13 games where he got 180 carries, 694 rushing yards, 466 receiving yards, and 6 touchdowns. 2024 he played in 14 games where he got 228 carries, 950 rushing yards, 543 receiving yards, and 8 touchdowns. And then 2025 played in 11 games where he got 131 carries, 471 rushing yards, 186 receiving yards, and 1 touchdown. So let's talk about the possibility of him taking a pay cut. Alvin Kamara has said he wants to be a Saint for life. Seems like he'll have to prove it. All right, and now cut Kamara. Like, what's the future with that? If the Saints were going to cut him, they should have designated him as a post-June 1st cut. Because, like, you can cut a guy before June 1st, but you can put, like, a post-June 1st designation, and it'll still count to the past June 1st cut. And trade Kamara. Well, the best option is waiting for injuries to occur on other rosters to drive the price up. So what's the timeline? There's really not one. Week 1 is really the deadline to figure out what to do with AK. And we talked about the running back depth chart, right? You got Travis Etienne, Kamara, Devin Neal, Kendra Miller, Audric Estime, Ty Chandler, CJ Donaldson. You're not going to have 7 running backs on your roster week 1. Like, that's not going to happen. Some guys might be practice squad guys. Some guys might not even make the team. So, yeah. All right. Now, Dad, I'm going to ask you a question. What do you think the Saints should do with this? What do you think? Let me rephrase the question. Hold on. Give me 1 second. All right. Jerry said, Mike, I was listening to James Skrmetta, a new video, and your voice was in the voice message call. I'm like, yeah, I mean, because I was talking about this too on James Skrmetta. Shout out to him. Go sub to him if you haven't. But, like, and he was kind of, like, playing devil's advocate, I guess, because, like I said, I think Kamara will have his best season in the last 4 years, and he was like what I think what James got mixed up is because he thought I was talking about him getting 1,000 yards as the number 2 running back. I never said 1,000 yards. All right, like you can go look at the thing. I never said Kamara was going to be a 1,000-yard running back. In fact, I was actually arguing the opposite. However, what I said was Kamara's going to have his best season in the last 4 years, okay? Like, do I think he's going to get 1,000 yards? Most likely not. He might get 1,000 all-purpose yards, but I don't think he's going to get, 1,000 rushing yards. So that's where I think he got a little confused, because I never said 1,000 yards. I said he was going to have his best season because of the offensive line, because of the running situation. That was me, though. But anyways, so, Dad, do you think Kamara should take a pay cut? Do you think we should cut or trade him? What do you think should happen?
I think give me those 3 options. I think I like the pay cut idea, but I mean it might not be necessary because Mickey Loomis does a good job usually of moving some money around if they really want to keep a player. If they don't want to take a pay cut, he's always moving things around, turning something into a signing bonus where it gives you more room. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. As far as trade, I mean, a 30-plus running back probably doesn't have a lot of trade value. And to cut him, I think he can be valuable as a leader on this team next year. So why cut him?
Right. Now, look, this is something that I would love to see, right? I'd love to see AK plus HN in the backfield, right? And the Saints are better with Alvin Kamara. And Kamara is best with the running mate because we saw most of the years of prime Mark Ingram and prime Alvin Kamara. Kamara was dominant. And like I said, was he getting 1,000 yards? No, because he was not drafted to be a 1,000-yard bell cow back. But when he was running with Mark Ingram, Latavius Murray, like Ty Montgomery was here for a couple years. Like Kamara was balling out. But then the last couple years, right, your second best option has been Jamal Williams, Kendre Miller, Devin. Like that's just not going to work. So I'm ready for this situation to be done. So my final thoughts, right? New Orleans has been cutthroat when it comes to entering the era of Saints football, right? Now, but now I have a question for you. Do you think Alvin Kamara and Travis Etienne, do you think the Saints could have a top 5 running game this upcoming season with those two in particular?
I think so, and I think it depends mainly on the health of the offensive line and the health of those two backs staying healthy. I mean, that's a lot of ifs. I mean, everybody deals with injuries, but yeah, if everything stays the way it is, I mean, definitely they could be a top 5 running game.
All right, what's good, Kai? How you doing? I hope you're enjoying your great Monday afternoon, and I hope you had a good morning too. But yeah, look, when it comes down to it, what was the biggest problem the last, I don't know, 3-4 years of the Saints? What was their biggest problem? Offensive line, right? Offensive line has been a major problem the last couple of years. Now let's look at your offensive lineman. You got Kelvin Banks, first-round pick last year. He was pretty good last year. Talise Fuaga, first-round pick 2 years ago. He was also pretty good. Eric McCoy, right? When he was playing, the offense was rolling. When he got hurt, no, that it just did not work. Yeah, and now you signed David Edwards, who was a top 10 guard last year, and Cesar Ruiz, and we ain't gotta talk about him. But like most of the guys on this offensive line is steady and can shiver the pot. So when you want a top 5 running game, offensive line is going to be the key force. Because, look, you can have a bad offensive line and still throw the football. Okay? You can have a bad offensive line and still have guys that can go catch the football. But I'm sorry, you need at least a decent offensive line to run the ball. And when you don't have at least a somewhat decent offensive line, you're not going to run the ball well. And like we mentioned earlier, Mickey Loomis, right? He is lukewarm on the Saints running back Alvin Kamara, and Mickey Loomis has always been a lukewarm guy, right? He's never been a guy to whenever he makes a mistake, he always tries to go like Mickey Loomis does not take accountability. That's one thing I already accepted with him. However, him being lukewarm on the situation does not make me feel too comfortable either. Right. Now, Alvin Kamara's status as a Saints player remains neutral. So, all right. So that's what I want to talk about Kamara. Now let's move on to something else. Now, Dad, I don't know how likely it is. I'm not a betting man. I'm not in Mickey Loomis's office every day. But there are some rumors that the Saints might be interested in a George Pickens trade. Would you welcome that, or would you say no?
I would pass on that. I mean, I like the guys we brought in. I think I want to see them grow and develop. Why bring in a guy that, he plays when he wants to sometimes and could just mess up the chemistry. So I don't like messing up the chemistry. So I would say no.
I like George Pickens, don't get me wrong. But I'm not trying to trade at least a day 2 draft pick for a guy that's not even guaranteed to be on your team. And it's not like he's on his rookie deal. You're going to have to pay him this summer. Like, you're going to have to if you don't pay him before this upcoming season. And Dallas, they're going to try to be stingy about it. They're going to try to get a first-round pick out of you. Why would I trade a first-round pick for a guy who, let's be honest here, he's a diva. He is a diva. There's a bunch of clips on the internet of him trying to fight somebody on the field. Like, the dude can be a diva. And the New Orleans Saints, we have a great culture, and we'll talk about the culture in a little bit. We have a great culture right now. Why would we mess that up? Why would we trade draft picks, invest in a guy long-term, and mess up some of the chemistry for absolutely nothing? Like, George Pickens had a great year last year. I'm not debating that. He had a great year last year. He was arguably a top 5 receiver last season. However, are you really willing to take that risk knowing what we know? Because I'm not. Look, Mickey Loomis is famous for taking risks. Took a risk on Derek Carr. That failed. Took a risk on drafting, what's his name? Reggie Bush. Well, yeah, I think he was the one that drafted Reggie Bush. That didn't work out that way. Like, Reggie Bush was good, but he wasn't this great dominant player. So what I'm saying to you, don't take another risk on a guy who like, you can swing for the fences. But if this fails, you know who we're blaming. That's all I'm going to say about it. All right, Kai said, "Nah, I'll pass on George Pickens. He's a talented receiver and all, but we good what we have is now." And that's another point that I was about to get to. That's another point that Kai just made. We just drafted Jordan Tyson. We already have Chris Olave. We got guys like Devon Valley that can catch the ball. We drafted 3 receivers this upcoming draft, or this past draft. So hey, we got a lot of young guys. We don't need George Pickens. Like, we already got a lot of mouths to feed already. We don't need a diva's mouth in here to feed as well. Just saying. All right. Now, let's talk about Cam Jordan. Why not? Because he's like the second biggest name going around Saints circles right now, if not the biggest. So the Saints have released it like last week, that they have an offer on the table for Cam Jordan. All right. But now it might take these 2 things that can get him to sign that deal. He needs a role, and he needs opportunity. That could guarantee his return. Now, another thing, right? There is uncertainty around Cam Jordan and Taysom Hill, right? Taysom Hill, apparently the Saints did not offer him, which I was not surprised by. But do you think that this officially marks the end of the Sean Payton era? Because, yeah, Sean Payton might have left us back in 2021. But that does not mean the Sean Payton era left us. So with those 2 guys, like Taysom Hill is probably like more of a 20%, if any. But Cam Jordan's like a 50-50. Do you think this officially marks the end of the Sean Payton era?
Not really. There's still some players on this team that played under Sean Payton. A number of players. So I don't think you can say that just yet.
I agree with you there. I mean, I was thinking about it too. Mickey Loomis. Honestly, I think when Mickey Loomis goes, we might consider it being, because like when Mickey Loomis is a big part of Sean Payton's era. Okay, and like the biggest problem that I had when he hired Dennis Allen, that was like when you. Well, I know you didn't fire Sean Payton, but when you are about to hire a new head coach, you want change. Dennis Allen was far from change. I just didn't understand that hire, and I don't even want to talk about it right now. But yeah, yeah. But ESPN just doubled down on what every Saints fan wanted to hear. Okay, ESPN was talking about Cam Jordan's best team fit, and ESPN believes Cam Jordan's best free agency fit is, no surprise here, the New Orleans Saints. ESPN said this about Cam Jordan. Jordan had 10.5 sacks in 2025, which marked his most in a single season since 2021. Sure, he can land with a team looking for a 4-3 edge given his physical profile, which is 6'4", 287 pounds, and movement ability. However, we have Jordan returning for his 16th season with the Saints. Coordinator Brandon Staley could still use Jordan's veteran presence in a unit that did not make any big free agent signings or draft picks. Now, if we take a look at notable additions to the D-line, you drafted Christian Miller, you traded for Tyree Wilson, you signed Anthony Jennings in free agency, and you signed Michael Hellman as a UDFA. Now, we just mentioned Cam Jordan has an offer on the table from the New Orleans Saints. So what's the holdup? I believe it's money. If Cam Jordan liked the offer he received, he would have signed by now. All right, and if we look at the Saints 5-man front with the guys that are still here and guys you brought in, so your edge rushers on both sides of the edge, or the line, I should say. You got Chase Young and Carl Granderson as your 2 starters, and then your rotational edge rushers, you got Tyree Wilson, Anthony Jennings, Fadil Diggs, and Chris Rumph II. Defensive ends, Brian Brzee, Vernon Brofton, and Koziah Izzard. Nose tackle, Devon Godchow, Christian Miller, and Christian Boyd. Defensive tackle, Nathan Shepard, John Ridgway III, and JVR Suggs. And also you got Miles Cole, Keenan Silver, and Michael Hellman. Now, some free agent targets, if the Saints try to go in a different direction, which is not Cam Jordan. If Cam Jordan signs elsewhere or doesn't sign at all, and the Saints try to go in a different direction, who are some guys that they could sign? They could sign a guy like Joey Bosa. He's 6'5", 280 pounds, 30 years old. In 2025, he had 29 tackles, 5 sacks, 9 tackles for loss, and 5 forced fumbles. You could sign A.J. Epineza. He's 6'6", 260 pounds, 27 years old. In 2025, he had 17 tackles, 2.5 sacks, and 2 interceptions. Jadeveon Clowney, 6'5", 266, 33 years of age, 41 tackles, 8.5 sacks, 12 tackles for loss, 1 forced fumble, and 2 fumbles recovery a year ago. And then Von Miller, 6'3", 250, 37 years old. In 2025, 26 tackles, 9 sacks, and 6 TFLs. Now, the best option for the Saints is to bring back Cam Jordan for another stint. And it's obvious the door is still open. But Cam Jordan wants a better offer than what he currently has. And there's only a few teams that Cam Jordan could realistically go to. That's the New Orleans Saints, Kansas City Chiefs, Chicago Bears, and Denver Broncos. So, Dad, if you had to predict it, where will Cam Jordan be playing football next season?
Denver Broncos. I mean, that's what Sean Payton does, right? He hires the former Saints. But no, if Cam Jordan has a offer from the New Orleans Saints, I think Mickey Loomis and coaching staff, I think they do have a role for him. Now, what is that role? I'm not sure. Maybe it's a third down pass rusher role where you take defensive tackles out, put on your best pass rushers. Maybe that's his role. Or, maybe they just they just lowballed him knowing that he's going to decline it and go sign with Denver. I don't know. We will see, dude.
Yeah, if I had to predict it, I'm going Denver Broncos, man. Look, I if Cam Jordan's back with the Saints, I'll embrace him full heavily. However, I mean, Cam Jordan, if he wanted to be a Saint super bad, he would have signed the contract. So either two things is the truth. Either one, Mickey Loomis is playing hardball, or Cam Jordan is playing hard to get. It's one of those two. Now, I think Denver Broncos, I think Sean Payton would be happily to splurge the cash to get Cam Jordan back. Because like we talked about the Sean Payton era, guess what? Cam Jordan's a part of the Sean Payton era. So, I mean, it just made perfect sense for him to go to Denver. Especially playing with that elite defense. If Cam Jordan goes to Denver, they could easily be Super Bowl favorites. So, that's definitely a thing. Now, we talked about the Saints offering Cam Jordan a contract, but now, do you think it's over for Taysom Hill in New Orleans? Do you think it is 100% stone cold over? Stone cold closed or door is closed? Do you think it's over for Taysom in New Orleans?
I think it's over. It's closed. You can just, forget about it. I mean, didn't he just put his house up for sale? He's selling his house and looks like he's getting out of town. So I think you can read into that yes, it's over.
It's over. It's been over since the season ended. Like I knew after that Jets game, I was like, yeah, there's no way Taysom Hill is back in the black and gold. Because, I mean, prime post game, Kellen Moore called all these plays for Taysom Hill, let Taysom throw a touchdown at the end. It's like, yeah, it's over. Yeah, he's not coming back. And like we already saw, the Saints offered Cam Jordan a contract, meaning that they still value him. But it was also reported Taysom Hill has not received an offer. So if they wanted Cam Jordan, they would have offered him. Well, guess what? They offered Cam Jordan, so clearly they want him. But you're trying to you think you can convince me that they want Taysom Hill after not offering him a contract? And we are currently in May, and the OTAs are about to start if they haven't already. What's today? The 25th? The OTAs start Wednesday. And you expect me to believe that there's a chance, there's a snowball chance that Taysom Hill is a member of the Saints next season. The only way I could see him maybe coming back is if someone gets injured and they need Taysom to step up. Other than that, there is no way Saints that he's coming back. Let's hop over into some basketball. Why not? So, last week, the news came out that the New Orleans Pelicans have found their guy, as they have hired Jamal Mosley. So, I have a question. Did they finally get it right?
That's yet to be seen. I mean, I wish I could tell you. If I could tell you, then I would be, Jesus or something. I mean, somebody that could look through the future. I don't know. But he does have some good credentials. He did some good things in Orlando. Not a whole lot of playoff success. So we'll see. Some people need a fresh start. So let's see if this is his fresh start and he gets this team off rolling next year. It'll be fun to watch.
Look, I've watched Pelicans basketball I've watched them play basketball under 3 head coaches. I've watched them through Stan Van Gundy. I've seen them through Willie Green, and now I'm about to see them, or I did see them through James Borrego. Now I'm about to see how they do with Jamal Mosley. Now look, when it comes down to it, I like some of the stuff that Jamal Mosley is about. But I wanted like a younger head coach personally. So I don't know. Because I feel like younger head coaches are like the meta. But I will say this. If Jamal Mosley can be like a Mike Brown, who I think also used to coach the Pelicans, if I'm not mistaken. But like if Jamal Mosley can be like a Mike Brown, what do I mean by a Mike Brown? Well, this is what I mean when I say that. Like, Mike Brown was able to transform the Knicks offense, which is probably going to get them to the NBA Finals after they beat up on poor old Cleveland tonight. And the Kings, right? The Kings might be hot garbage right now, but when Mike Brown was there, a lot of people forget. The Kings were the number 3 seed in the Western Conference under Mike Brown. So, if Jamal Mosley can do that, can fix an organization's offense, then I'm all ears, brother. I'm all ears. Now, let's flip it back on the Saints side of things. What do you think is the biggest advantage for the Saints heading into year 2 with Tyler Shough and Kellen Moore?
The advantage is they already have a year under their belt, so they know what they're working with. And you always hear that, young quarterbacks, they take a big leap in that second year. If they're going to be something in the future, they're going to be something in the second year. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for them to take a big jump this year into greatness.
Right. Yeah, I think the biggest advantage for the Saints heading into year 2 with Tyler Shough and Kellen Moore is these guys know each other, man. And Tyler Shough has said it. He said it, that he is fully confident in this team. And who am I to not believe what Tyler Shough has to say? I mean, Tyler Shough, he's the future. Like, there's still some people out there right now that don't want to admit it. There's still some people out there right now that are out here saying, Tyler Shough ain't it. Tyler Shough ain't it. They said that when we drafted him, and they were all wrong. And they're going to be wrong, too. Hey, Kevin, how you doing? But anyways, now, Tyler Shough is entering year 2 with confidence. Do you think the Saints are finally turning the corner?
I think they've turned the corner. I think, in fact, I'm going to do a video about this, in the coming days. But I looked at the Saints schedule, and I can see a path to us winning 14 games this year. Is that not turning the corner? I don't know what is.
All right, can you explain to me how we're going to get to 14?
Well, I need to look at the schedule. I don't have it, but I went through it. And I could see these wins. I mean, I could see us losing like in Chicago. I can see us losing a couple NFC South games, and maybe even the Packers game. But everything else is winnable games. They're all winnable games, and so I see us win. I see a path to win 14. The floor, I had 9 wins. So between 9 and 14. How you feel about that?
I mean, I picked us winning 10, so I wouldn't complain at 14. But yeah, anyways, I think the Saints are finally turning the corner. I mean, just look at it. I mean, the New Orleans Saints have been, for the last 5 years, the Saints have been a joke. Like, I'm talking about like a complete dumpster fire, right? With Dennis Allen, Derek Carr, Mickey Loomis. I know Mickey's still here, but like Mickey Loomis was, he was on that good stuff, if you know what I mean. Because there ain't no way you were sober talking about Dennis Allen being a good coach. But I'm willing to forgive you as long as this works out. So I do think the Saints are finally turning the corner, especially with Tyler Shuck under center. Now, what do you think Barian Brown's role in his rookie season will be?
I say if he don't drop punts, he could be our punt returner. But the catch with these young guys coming in is that they get starstruck and they drop a couple punts. And if your coaching staff and your punt return drop a punt or two, you lose confidence in them, and then you're on the bench for the rest of the season. And we gotta get somebody back there that can catch some punts. So if he can catch some punts, he's got the speed. He's gonna be our punt returner. That's what I think. By week 1, he'll be our punt returner.
Yeah, I think Barian Brown, he's gonna be a punt return guy. So yeah, you do that. I mean, he had the most punt return touchdowns in all of SEC history. So I mean, the dude's clearly good at that. Now, what do you think the other rookie wide receiver's role his rookie year is going to be? And I'm not talking about Mr. Tyson. I'm talking about Bryce Lance. What do you think his role is going to be?
I think right now it's just going to be to develop. He's going to sit back the first few weeks of the season, I'm sure, and just learn from Chris Olave and the veterans that we have here, and just develop. By midseason, he should be ready to go. He should be catching some balls and contributing. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I think Bryce Lance by midseason, he's going to be deep threat guy. So, yeah. Now, I want to take us back to memory lane. Usually I like doing this, just have a little bit of fun with the show. Back in 2024, it was a late season game, right? Saints were taking on the New York Giants, okay? It was a meaningless game, Both I don't think the Saints were officially eliminated before going into that game. In fact, now I definitely remember that they were not eliminated. However, in that game that the Saints won 14-11, I know real life people actually went to that game. I know, it was crazy. However, there was this one play and towards the end of the fourth quarter where Derek Carr, who was the Saints quarterback at the time, the dude did the dumbest thing he could have done. Derek Carr ran with the football, right? And the dude dove, right? He dove with his head. And he injured himself, He suffered a concussion. Look, I never be rooting for injuries, right? It was an unfortunate thing that happened. However, what if Derek Carr did not do that? What if he never got hurt? Where would the Saints be? So, Dad, I'm going to ask you this. If Derek Carr never did that buffoonery and never got hurt, where do you think the Saints would be right now?
Same place we at. I don't think that would have saved his job or anything. I think he still would have done some buffoonery things and retired or semi-retired, or I don't know what he did, but I don't think that would have stopped anything. I don't think we would have not drafted Tyler Shuck or not drafted any quarterback to be the future. So I think we're right in the same position as if he didn't do that.
All right. And I agree with you. I think if Derek Carr never got hurt, I still think he would have been on the Saints roster, but I think he would have been demoted to backup and would have been backup quarterback. That's what I think. I think the Saints probably would have had a worse season though. I think the Saints would have went like 4-13 last year if Derek Carr never got hurt, because I think they would have probably made Derek Carr the backup, and then Saints not win too many games after that. Because then Chuck, don't learn. But yeah, so that's just my take on that situation. Now, let's talk about the cutting edge. New Orleans Saints, Kellen Moore offense gets revamped with Juwan Johnson and Oscar Delp, man. How do you feel about the offense going towards that 2 tight end system with Juwan Johnson? Well, really 3 tight end system with Noah Fant there too. But how do you feel about this team with Juwan Johnson and Oscar Delp, in the tight end room?
I think it's a deep tight end room. I think Oscar Delp, just like the Lance kid, he's going to need a few weeks to develop, maybe half a season to develop, and then he's going to be contributors, and we're going to be a young team that's, throwing and running all over the field. We're gonna have some speed, boy. Speed.
Facts. We will. Now, Dad, I don't know if you saw, but after the schedule came out, Vegas came out with their dumb old odds.
Ooh. What we got?
You remember last year, right? Mm-hmm. You remember last year we were sitting in the same seats, right? Talking about, well, they think we're gonna lose this game, they think we're gonna lose that game. Oh, look, we're gonna beat the Jets, and we're gonna go 1-16. Hooray, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Right. You remember all of that, right?
Right.
Well, they did it. They didn't do it as bad this time, but let's see what they have. So, the New Orleans Saints in Week 1 are 7.5 underdogs to the Detroit Lions. Right? Yep, 7.5 underdogs with the Detroit Lions. Hold on, if I can find the entire schedule. All right, here we go. FanDuel, I think probably will have it. All right, yeah. No, that don't help me at all. Anyway, hold on, give me 1 second. But like the New Orleans Saints, they are, I know this by heart, they are 7-point underdogs against the Detroit Lions. They're 7.5 underdogs to the Baltimore Ravens. Right. Basically, hold on, because I can't find it because this shit's bullshit. But anyways, all I do know is that the Saints, they were favored to win. Their betting line was 7.5 wins. And the Saints were favored in 5 of those games. So, I'm going to ask you. Are the Saints major underdogs in the 2026 season? And do you think the Saints can beat the Vegas odds?
I mean, that's a lot better than it was last year, right? Didn't we have one was favored in one?
Oh, yeah, we had one for sure.
So, I mean, that alone shows either we've improved as a team or our schedule sucks even worse than it sucked last year. I don't know. But, yeah, we're definitely going to beat the odds. Like I said, we're going to win more than 7 games, 7.5 games. I think that's the floor for us, and they know it. They know it.
Right. I mean, the Saints, just look like they improved in almost every way. Now, are they major underdogs in the 2026 season? Yes. Can New Orleans beat Vegas odds? They're not going to beat Vegas odds. They're going to destroy the Vegas odds. Okay. Anyways, now, the Saints only got 1 primetime game this year, with that being Week 4 against Atlanta. Some people will tell you that they got 2 primetime games if you include the Steelers-Paris game in Week 7. But if we're going strictly Thursday night, Monday night, Sunday night, do you think the Saints got snubbed with 1 primetime game?
Snubbed? No, because of just, how our season went last year. So I think that's about right. You can't expect a certain amount of respect unless you start winning and getting to the playoffs and winning this division. Once you do that, the accolades will come, And then if you only on primetime one, night during the year, then you're gonna be like, okay, that is some BS.
Right. Yeah, look. I think the team that got the most primetime games this year was the Rams with 7. So when you see the gap from 1 to 7, like the Rams, they won, 12 games last year? Made it to the NFC Championship, and they got 7. They didn't get any higher than 7. So when you look at things in a vacuum, it's like, not a lot of people were lining up last year to watch the Saints, right? However, things could change. So I'm going to say no, because you got to earn respect in this league. You got to earn respect. If you want respect, you got to earn it. You got to take it. So when we talk about primetime games, and look, like I think having primetime games, are cool and all, but I think they get a little bit overrated because, like, dude, I'm sorry, but if I have to stay up till 10 o'clock and my team gets blown out, you know how pissed off I would be? It's like, nah, especially if I went to those games. Oh, God. Anyways, now let's talk about the shift, okay? Brandon Staley's New Orleans Saints defense. Do you think that with the defense that they're going to be in, with Caden Ellis back and stuff like that, do you think the Saints, do you think they're ready to guard multiple tight ends on the same play?
I think tight ends, yes. I think
multi-tight end waves, because teams be doing that now.
I think so. I think defensively, I think we're getting faster and younger as a unit. So I think our more, questionable needs will be probably at corner and slot corner. That's what I'm looking for. I think, everything else will take care of itself. But that, I think, is the weak point of our team right now. But, things could develop into a strength, but we just don't know.
Facts. Yeah, look, the defense that we're in has always been like they've always struggled against tight ends, right, in the past. But Brandon Staley, one thing that he's good at coveting the middle of the field. So I think knowing that and Caden Ellis being here, I think the Saints could absolutely do that. Now, you did bring up a thing in your statement. Is cornerback the Saints' biggest need going into 2026, in your opinion?
That is the biggest question mark, in my opinion. We lost Alontae Taylor, was a pretty dynamic slot corner for us as far as covering that slot receiver. And also, when he's asked to, putting a little pressure on the quarterback off that edge. So that's going to be missing this year. So we're going to see who steps up into that role and how well they do.
Right. Cornerback, when you look at the guys, there's not one number one corner in that locker room, right in that cornerback room. Could that change this season? Absolutely. Kool-Aid could improve and be a number one corner. Quincy Riley could improve and be a number one corner. TJ Hall, the guy you drafted, maybe he stands out his rookie year. But going into 2026, you don't have a proven guy. Kool-Aid had a good rookie year last year, and he was all right. So we'll just have to see how things go with that. Now, here's a question that I'm sure everybody wants to know. It's life or death, y'all. This will determine if the Saints are going to the Super Bowl. Do you think the New Orleans Saints need new uniforms?
No, I think they need to go back to their old uniforms, like 1980s and 90s uniforms. They were a little better, in my opinion.
Look, I love the Saints uniforms. When you go on Madden and you see and when you see these Saints uniforms, man, they get me every single time, man. I start tearing up almost. But it's I will say the answer is no, man. We got some cool little uniforms, man. Now, let's talk about the schedule, because we haven't really broke down the Saints schedule on the show. We did, but we didn't at the same time, if you know what I'm saying. The New Orleans Saints received good and bad news. All right, so if we take the Saints 2026 schedule, Week 1 at Lions, Week 2 at Ravens, Week 3 hosting the Raiders, Week 4 hosting the Falcons on Monday Night Football. Week 5, hosting the Vikings. Week 6, at the Giants. Week 7, versus the Steelers in Paris. Week 8 is the bye. Week 9, hosting Browns. Week 10, hosting the Panthers. Week 11, at Bears. Week 12, at Bengals. Week 13, hosting the Packers. Week 14, at Panthers. Week 15, at Buccaneers. Week 16, hosting Cardinals. Week 17, at Falcons. And Week 18, hosting the Buccaneers. Now, the good news. The Saints have the second easiest strength of schedule this year. CBS Sports was talking about the Saints' good news and said this. The Saints have the second easiest strength of schedule this year, which we're only mentioning because in 7 of the past 9 years, at least one team playing one of the two easiest, at least one team playing in the Super Bowl had one of the two easiest schedules, has made the playoffs, right? Okay, let me restart. The Saints have the second easiest strength of schedule this year, which we're only mentioning because in 7 of the past 9 years, at least one team playing one of the two easiest schedules has made the playoffs. The two teams with the easiest schedules this year are the Saints and Browns. Now, the Saints could be schedule merchants in 2026. As CBS Sports also said, on their actual schedule, the Saints have a stretch where they'll only play one true road game over a 2-month span. During that 8-week stretch, they have 5 home games. Raiders, Vikings, Falcons, Browns, Panthers, 1 game in Paris, and a bye. So, Dad, which Saints game are you most excited about out of all of these games? Which one are you most excited about?
Week 1 against the Lions. Once that game gets here, football season has begun.
Right. I'm excited about that game too, but the game I'm most excited about is Week 7. Saints versus Steelers on Sunday, October 25th in Stade de France. And also St. Denis, I guess, St. Denis, something like that. The Saints 2025 record was 6-11. Steelers 2025 record 10-7. But I can't wait to watch Shuck versus Rogers, new versus old. However, I do got some bad news because the Saints have a tough stretch in the back half of the season. CBS Sports said this about the Saints' bad news. The Saints went just 3-6 on the road last season. So if there's one stretch that could do them in this year, it's when they play 4 of 5 games on the road starting in Week 11. Not only do they have 4 road games in a 5-week span, at Bears, at Bengals, at Panthers, and at Buccaneers, but the only home game is against the Packers. With a stretch like that, it could be tough for the Saints to stay in the playoff hunt late in the season. Speaking of long road trips, the Saints are one of just 5 teams that got stuck playing 2 straight road games to start the season. Now, the Saints need to start the season the Saints need to start the season hot because their Week 2 matchup is Saints at Ravens, Sunday, September 20th in Baltimore, Maryland. Saints 2025 record 6-11, Ravens 2025 record 8-9. Now, the Saints' toughest stretch. Week 11, you're at the Bears. You are 6.5-point underdogs. Week 12, at the Bengals, 6.5-point underdogs. Week 13, you're hosting the Packers, but you're 4.5-point underdogs. Week 14, at the Panthers, 2.5-point underdogs. And Week 15 at the Buccaneers, 3.5-point underdogs. The Saints are underdogs in 12 out of their 17 games. So fast starts will help down the stretch. So now my final thoughts are the Saints are a better team in 2026. Let's get back to the playoffs. Now, Dad, what are your final thoughts about the good and bad news?
The good and bad news. Well, I look at the schedule totally different. I don't think the back half is that bad. I'm looking at that first half. I'm looking at the first 2 games. I mean, we can realistically get off to an 0-2 start, but not fear. Because I think if we do get off to an 0-2 start, there's a string of games after that is just so winnable. I mean, we got the Browns, we got the Raiders, we got the Falcons. We know that's a win. I mean, so even if we get off to 0-2, I don't want to get off to an 0-2. I mean, let's go into week 3 at least 1-1. If we could do that, I'd be very happy. I mean, I look at the back half, and another thing I like to look at, the road games. Do we have any cold weather road games in December? Well, I don't think so. I mean, we play the Bears in like November. I think it'll be a little windy. I don't think it's gonna be snowy. You know, maybe it might be, but it's not as bad as December and January. So I think the schedule lines up just right for us. I think a couple the road games gonna be a little tough, but I mean there's nothing we can't overcome. We're not playing like Patrick Mahomes. We might play Joe Burrow, but he can't stay healthy, so he probably won't even be in the game then.
Maybe. Now let's flip this over to the LSU side of things, man. Dad, you know who Ed Ogeron is, right?
Yes.
Well, do you know where he's working at now?
He is Lane Kiffin's assistant.
Yep, because he's back. Ed Ogeron returns to LSU. So, how do you feel about it?
Well, make no mistake about it. I've done some digging. I've done some thinking about this. Ed Ogeron is just back to help Lane Kiffin ingratiate himself to the culture. Remember, that was Chip Kelly's thing. Chip Kelly was a good coach, but he can't talk to these Baton Rouge people. I mean, so they don't want Lane to get off to that same start. So what do? You go bring the old ball coach back, the old Go Tigers. You bring him back to talk to the media, to tell Lane, that's not appropriate, bro. And, so that's why I think Ed Ogeron is back here.
Absolutely. Like, there's no doubt about it. Ed Ogeron, look, he loves LSU. Like, nobody's questioning that. Because, I mean, I remember when he left that, he had gotten fired by LSU. And what had happened was, Ed Ogeron was asked the question, would you, if Nick Saban called your phone and was like, hey, can you come recruit guys for the Alabama Crimson Tide? You know what Ed Ogeron said? No way. Because he's not willing, because he would have, nobody would have blamed him. Everybody would have understood, okay, you're trying to coach against the team that, fired you. But he's like, no way, brother. I'm LSU all day, every day. So that's just the whole thing. And, yeah, so Ed Ogeron, hey, he's a man of the people. And also, fun fact, though, LSU and all of their sports programs, 3 of the guys LSU has fired are working for LSU now. Ain't that just funny? They fired Ed Ogeron. Their basketball team fired Will Wade a few years back. And they fired, I think, the dude from baseball, I think. They fired somebody else. I think it was like Jay Johnson, I think. Like, they had fired all those guys, and now they're all working for LSU again. So it's like, that's crazy to me. But yeah, now, let's flip it back over to the Saints side. Could the Saints deploy Isaiah Stallbird as a safety?
Isn't he a safety already?
No, he's a linebacker.
Well, he made some plays in the passing defense, so yeah, he could be a safety.
Yeah, I think, Isaiah Stallbird, I think, would fit better in the safety room. Because I think with Isaiah Stallbird, we saw Stallbird make a lot of athletic plays, man. So I think him being in that not in the backfield, him being in the secondary, I think would definitely do him benefits, personally. Now, Dad, what are you expecting from Jordan Tyson in his rookie season?
I'm expecting at least 80 catches, at least 900 yards. Give me about 6-7 touchdowns. Be in the top 3 in rookie of the year.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Tyson, he's he has a great situation, man. So I think at least the 7 to 900 yard mark. Anything between that, I'll take. And 6 to 8 touchdowns and 70 to 85 catches. Something around that, I would definitely be a thing. But do you think Jordan Tyson could have an elite rookie season? Do you think that could be do you think he could pull off some Jamar Chase or Puka Nacua type of thing?
I think so, because there's just not a whole lot of other choices in the wide receiver room anyway, as far as proven commodities. I mean, Chris Olave, yes, he's the number 1 receiver, but he's shown over the last few years that he can get banged up a little bit and he can miss some time. So, that number 2 guy, that Jordan Tyson, he's going to have a lot of opportunities.
Facts. I think Jordan Tyson could have an elite season because when you look at it, right, he is the best wide receiver coming out of college this year. And he's paired up with a guy, who is very similar to Jordan Tyson, Chris Olave. And he has a quarterback that can actually sling the rock. Yes, he could have an elite season. Now, I want to talk next level. Do you think the New Orleans Saints can take their offense to new heights with more play action and run success?
I think they'll definitely have to have that in the offense. I think Kellen Moore wants to do that. I think they couldn't do it as much last year because of we struggled to run the ball at times, especially with that inconsistent offensive line. But with everybody healthy, I think that's a big part of our offense.
Yeah, look, I mean, there is nothing that an offensive coordinator loves more than having eye candy or fooling the defense. And play action and runs will do that. So absolutely, man. I mean, and we even saw it last season, man. When the Saints did do that, Tyler Shough was airing it out. Kellen Moore was letting Tyler Shough air it out. So yes, that can very well happen. Now, we talked about this a little bit last week, but I want to talk about it. Well, not last week. It would have been the week before, but I want to talk about it again. Was Drew Brees robbed of an MVP? And if so, how do you think it affects his legacy or impacts his legacy?
I think he was robbed a couple times. I mean, I don't know how you can have, what does he have, 4,000, 5,000 yard performances? 4 or 5? And how many MVPs does he have?
0.
So, I don't know. So, I would answer your question with yes, definitely.
All right. And how do you think it impacts his legacy, if you think it impacts it at all?
I don't think. I mean, I hear these guys talking about, the greatest quarterbacks, and they put up their top 5 or top 10. And sometimes Drew Brees is not in there, and I'm just shaking my head like, what are y'all looking at? So I guess if he had 1 or 2 MVP trophies, I guess he'd be in there like that. But I mean, the dude's going in the Hall of Fame, first ballot. I mean, that's getting it done. The Hall of Famers know what's up. The Hall of Fame voters know what's up.
Facts. I mean, look, I've said this multiple times, and some people might think I'm just joking or saying it with Saints bias. Drew Brees is the greatest quarterback of all time. Okay, he just is. Yes, does Tom Brady have 7 rings? Yes, I understand that. I understand rings are what everybody just looks at. But when we look at accuracy, who was more accurate? Brady? Dad, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you think completion percentage, do you think that defines how good a quarterback was?
I mean, putting the ball where you completing the balls is, is your job. You're the quarterback. Your job is to throw the ball, have them catch the ball. So if you're doing that at 70%, 72%, 75% sometimes, I mean, that's getting it done. You can't get better than that, really.
Yeah. So now let me ask you a question. Right? Who do you think has the highest career completion percentage, especially in the playoffs? Who do you think has a higher career completion percentage, Tom Brady or Drew Brees?
I think his name starts with a D.
It does. It's Drew Brees. Like, yes, Brady has the rings. No one can take those rings from him. But also, Tom Brady has had a top 10 defense. Every year he won a Super Bowl. Do you know how much years Drew Brees had a top 10 defense?
Twice.
3 times.
3 times.
He had 3 times. And also, people say Drew Brees has lost 8 playoff games with the Saints. Let me tell you something. Do you know how many games Drew Brees led the team to either get a field goal or a touchdown with at least 2 minutes left to take the lead? Do you know how much times? Or to tie it? 5 of his 8 losses, he did that.
And the defense gave it up.
Exactly. Like, he could not prevent the Minneapolis Miracle. He couldn't run out there to tackle Stephon Diggs from the sideline. He couldn't stop Marshawn Lynch from doing whatever he just did. He couldn't freaking stop good old boy, the dude from the 49ers, Vernon Davis. He couldn't stop him from catching the ball. Drew Brees couldn't make the referee throw a flag. He couldn't have a gun to his head and be like, yo, throw that thing. So I think he's the GOAT, and I don't care. You can argue with the tree. But anyways, now talking about more Saints, do you think the Saints can fix their biggest weakness in OTAs?
No, not in OTAs. I mean, they're going to have, all the personnel moves are pretty much done. I mean, the draft, free agency. So you got what you got right now. Maybe there's a move or two you can make later. But right now it's all about development. And that's going to take more than OTA. That's going to take all training camp, all summer long, until we get into this regular season.
All right. I'm actually going to say that the Saints can fix their biggest weakness in OTAs because in OTAs, that's meant for you to practice and that's meant for you to get better. With the cornerbacks that we got, the running backs we got, those are, in my opinion, probably the 2 biggest weakness. I think the New Orleans Saints can absolutely go into week 1 with solidified guys. We won't know it, of course. We won't know it, but I think we will. Now, let's talk about worst of first, all right? Because the New Orleans Saints are taking the NFL by storm. So let's talk about the possibility of it being a worst of first situation. The Saints made major improvements to the offense. They're primed to win the division. As Warren Sharp on, Sharp Football Analyst, he said the Saints have the second easiest strength of schedule in 2026 based on projected win totals. This is the benefit of a 4th place schedule, all right? The NFC South, the division is getting better, but it's still not great. PFF agrees the Saints will go worst to first. So PFF ranked all 8 teams last year that finished 4th in their respective divisions, and they ranked them from going worst to first, like the possibility of them going worst to first the upcoming season. The number 1 team was the New Orleans Saints. All right, and for those that are curious, number 2 was the Detroit Lions. Number 3, New York Giants. Number 4, Tennessee Titans. Number 5, New York Jets. Number 6, Las Vegas Raiders. Number 7, Cleveland Browns. And the team that they think it will be more likely that pigs fly than the Arizona Cardinals winning that division. Well, number 8 is the Arizona Cardinals. So, now look, since Brees retired, the Saints have struggled, but that changes this year. PFF talked about the Saints going worst to first, and this is what they had to say. New Orleans has a sense of real optimism based on the development of second-year quarterback Tyler Shough, who produced the 10th best overall PFF grade, which was a 77.1 at the position from weeks 13 to 18. Shough can be the guy. He has the ability to create and elevate the roster, displayed clear development, tough and fearless competitor. He throws a catchable ball and has NFL quarterback intangibles. So, Dad, if you had to describe Tyler Shough in 3 words, what would you describe him?
I would say tough, accurate, and leader.
All right. I would describe him as tough, fearless competitor. That's what I would put him as. Now, PFF also said this about Saints going worst to first. Moreover, the Saints should still field a strong defense under Brandon Staley, one which ranked 9th in EPA per play a season ago, and fields Chase Young, Caden Ellis, Kool-Aid McKinstry, and Justin Reed. Saints defense in 2025. Opponents points per game, 22.5, which was 14th in the league. Opponents yards per game, 299.8, 9th in the league. Opponents yards per play, 4.8, 6th in the league. Opponents third down conversion percentage, 34.3%, 3rd in the league. Opponents red zone scoring touchdown percentage, 53.2%, 9th in the league. And look, Chase Young is going to have a monster season, all right? So you already know he's going to be there. PFF also said this about the Saints going worst to first. Encouragingly, the Saints made several splashes this offseason to address weaknesses by acquiring running back Travis Etienne, receiver Jordan Tyson, and guard David Edwards. Now, Kellen Moore's group could have enough to claim its first division title since 2020, especially given that the rest of the NFC South yet again looks uncertain. And look, people are underestimating how big the David Edwards signing was for the offense. If we look at the Saints offensive line depth chart, their left tackles are Kelvin Banks Jr., Asim Richards, and Blake Wesley. Left guards, David Edwards, Dylan Redunds, and Nick Saldivari. Your centers, Eric McCoy and Torrisi Simpkins III. Right guards, Cesar Ruiz, Jeremiah Wright, and Will Sherman. And right tackles, Talise Fuaga, Xavier Truss, and Alan Huron. And you also on your offensive line have Eaton Kitty and Alex Walsh-Slager. You have an improved offense, all-around explosiveness, revamped wide receiver room, juice on the ground, modernized tight end group, O-line is more reliable. So when we talk about worst to first, the Saints absolutely can and should win the NFC South this season. Do you think the Saints could go from worst to first?
I do. I know I hate to spoil our pick'em shows, but I'm going to predict the Saints go from worst to first. But that's me.
Yep, I do too. Now, can Tyler Shough really be the Saints franchise QB? What do you think New Orleans needs to see out of Tyler Shough in 2026?
What do we need to see from him?
Yep.
We just need to see continued development. Like I said, that jump from year 1 to year 2 is usually the biggest jump in your career. So he needs to make that jump. He needs to stay healthy. He needs to just be the point guard. Distribute the ball all around the field to all you different weapons.
Yeah, look, we need to see Tyler Shough be a full-on leader. Like we saw it last year, but we need him to, okay, now you got new guys. How can your chemistry work? That's what we need to see out of him this season. Now, how close do you think the Saints are to competing for a Super Bowl?
Well, I think we filled most of the holes that we thought we had. We just need to see them progress. We need to see them in action. So if I'm sitting here, 2 months before the season even starts, I'm gonna say, we're not extremely close. We may be getting there. We may be halfway there. But
right.
We just need to see these guys in action.
Yeah, I think the Saints are close to competing for the Super Bowl. Now, I don't know if they'll win it this year, but they are close, man. I'm telling you, they are close. They're closer than people want to admit. Like in like a year or two, we could talk about a team that's contending for a championship. Now, how soon do you think how soon could Chris Olave become a top 5 wide receiver in Saints history?
In Saints history, top 5. If he's not there yet, he's just right outside of that. If I go, think about the top 5, I could name 4 or 5 that's probably in that group, and he's right there. He might be 5, 6, or 7.
Right. Look, I think it will take him a longer time to get into the top 5. Mainly because he has to do like a lot of, because, longevity. But if we look at some of the best receivers in Saints history, here's 5 names that are that I'm looking at right now: Marquez Colston, Michael Thomas, Joe Horn, Eric Martin, and Danny Abramowicz. Do you think what?
Abramowicz.
Yeah, that. Do you think Chris Olave could pass any of these 5 guys up after this year?
I think he can definitely pass Abramowicz, which Abramowicz is before my time, but he played in a time where they didn't pass the ball a whole lot. So I don't know that he has great numbers. But
I mean, well, he led the league in receptions in 1969, so he did something like that.
With how many receptions? Like 50?
Probably. Let me see.
Good, look that up.
That's what I'm doing right now. Let's see. That he old. Let me see here. All right. Danny, how did Danny Boy do in 1969 when he led those leagues in receptions? Hold on, give me 1 second. Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now. But I mean, yeah. I mean, Eric Martin, he had like a bunch of 1,000-yard seasons in a row. We obviously know what Michael Thomas did, breaking the single-season reception record. We obviously know Marquez Colston, 7th-round pick, went on to lead the league in a lot of stuff, won a Super Bowl. So, yeah, he's definitely going to be up there. And there's some guys, that you could, like, move on the inside, like, if you don't. Agree with those. All right, here we go. Let's see. In 1969, when he led the league in receptions, he had 73.
Okay, 73, and now guys lead the league in receptions with 140.
Yeah.
And it goes to show how the game was a little different back then. A little bit.
Facts, man. I mean, Chris Olave had 100 receptions last season, and he wasn't even close to the number 1.
Right.
So I was like, yeah. Now, we talk about the 2017 drafts, those 2017 Saints draft like it's gospel. Now, do you think anybody since that draft class has topped the Saints stacked 2017 draft class?
Wait, say that again?
Do you think any NFL team from any organization, do you think that they have topped the Saints stacked 2017 draft class?
I guess if you sit around and think about it, you might have some that are close and maybe a little bit better. I know the Steelers in the 70s, they had one draft class where they had like 4 or 5 Hall of Famers drafted in one year. So.
Yeah. Well, I think the Seattle Seahawks back in 2023. I'm gonna be unbiased here. I think they probably had the better draft class than the Saints because 1, that draft class led them to a Super Bowl, and 2, Kenneth Walker, Devon Witherspoon. I think Tariq Woolen was in that draft class too. You had like I said, Devon Witherspoon. Woolen might have came a year before, but overall, I think when it comes down to it, the Seahawks. I think, and I think Kenneth Walker might have been in that draft too. So, yeah, I think, the Seahawks probably had the best draft class since that year, personally. Now, the Saints finally have an identity. All right. Do you think Kellen Moore's culture shift is already showing in New Orleans?
Ask that again.
So, the Saints finally have an identity. Why do you think Kellen Moore, why? Can you explain to me, right, why Kellen Moore culture shift is already showing in New Orleans after his first year? Like, what do you think he did differently that Dennis Allen did not do?
Because he knows what he's doing. Dennis Allen didn't know what he was doing. I mean, he already failed in, Oakland with the Raiders, and then I don't know how he got the job or how he was able to keep the job after 1 freaking year. But Kellen Moore obviously knows what he's doing. He's been taught by, he's worked in a few successful organizations. He's been taught by some good coaches. So that's the main reason why it works with him.
Yes, sir. I think, when it comes down to it, the New Orleans Saints, Kellen Moore, right, he knows what it takes to get to a Super Bowl. He knows how to win a Super Bowl. So he's going to show that energy into this building. Now, New Orleans Saints fans will love this news from Tyler Shough. As Tyler Shough said, he's already felt so much more comfortable in year 2. As Tyler Shough was talking about the 2026 offseason, he said, I think it's really sit down and kind of evaluate the film from last year and kind of tweak what we may call certain things and then also kind of tailor it to how we're trying to attack defenses this year. So that was really cool to see throughout this install process and OTAs in phase 2. I think there was a self-evaluation from my part and what I can work on footwork-wise and setting the pocket and then also offensively and how we can kind of get better there. More has seen Shough. All right. More has seen Shough, take on a leadership role this offseason in a really powerful way. And I have high hopes for Tyler Shough in year 2. If we look at the notable additions on offense, running back Travis Etienne, guard David Edwards, tight end Noah Fant, wide receiver Jordan Tyson, tight end Oscar Delp, and wide receiver Bryce Lance. And I can't wait to see Jordan Tyson on the field, right? But Dad, the betting line for Tyler Shough's passing touchdowns is 17.5. Are you going more or under?
I'm definitely going more. I'm looking like around the mid to late 20s with Tyler Shough.
Yeah, I'm going more. I think he's going to at least get like 22 touchdowns at least, and that could increase depending on if guys stay healthy or whatnot. But yeah, I think 22 passing touchdowns should be the max for Tyler Shough. So I'm definitely going more there. And when that came out, I was like, that's kind of low, ain't it? Now, Tyler Shough was talking about Jordan Tyson, where he said, I think his body control and his separation is what stands out to me. I think he's an elite separator, and then also his hands have been really, really exciting to see kind of close up now. He's so sure-handed. He's got this great kind of feel. He's very friendly to the quarterback, I would say, and then obviously his big playability is what shows up all over tape. So we're still very early on in the process, and I think more than anything, just getting on the same page with the playbook, and he's doing a really good job of that. I think he's really smart, so I'm excited to kind of keep going with him. Now, I have a question for you. Should the Saints trade Pete Werner?
No, I like Pete Werner. I wish he could stay healthy, but, we need him. Because we're kind of thin at the linebacker spot as far as depth goes. So, no, we definitely got to keep Pete Werner.
Yeah, I definitely think, you could still explore the option if you want to trade Pete Werner. But you have to get, an offer that you can't really refuse. Now, besides Cam Jordan, right, what would be your next free agent that the Saints could sign minus Cam Jordan if you have somebody in mind already?
Wait, what you said yours is Cam Jordan?
So what's your next free agent that the Saints could sign minus Cam Jordan?
Yeah. Oh, minus Cam Jordan. I don't really know who's still out there, and if there's a slot corner or outside corner that's available, that can we bring in? I think I would go that route.
All right. Now, like we mentioned, the Saints only got one primetime game. But if the Saints have a winning record this year, do you think that one of their games could get flexed?
Yeah, definitely. You have to be, in that playoff mix to get a flex game. So definitely, let's get off to a good start. Let's, some winning and get in that playoff mix, and we'll have a flex game. I'm sure of it.
All right, yeah. I don't think they will flex any Saints games because we're the Saints, and Roger Goodell don't be liking the Saints. But yeah, that's just me personally. But yeah, now, do you think Jordan Tyson? Do you think he could get 1,000 yards his rookie year?
That's asking a lot, but I'm gonna go ahead and say yes. I think the way we're gonna use him, I think he'll get a lot of opportunities, especially early. So I'm going to say yes.
All right. I'm going to say no right now because I think, with him being a rookie, I think he's going to have to get his feet wet first. I think he's going to get, around that 700-yard mark, personally, like 700 to 800. But, yeah. So, now, last question before I let you go. Do you think a Saints wide receiver Chris Olave contract extension could come up soon?
I think so. I think it's important to lock him up, especially with Jordan Tyson being in the mix. We're going to need that veteran presence in the locker room to help guide him. So I'm going to say yes, definitely.
Yeah, I think with the Saints, I think their next priority is going to be Chris Olave. Right, you need to get him locked down. So I'm gonna go yes as well. So, Dad, do you have anything else to share?
Yes, I have one thing.
All right.
We was talking about earlier about the best draft class in history, and I brought up about the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 70s. Well, it was 1974. Get this, they had 5 guys that are now in the Hall of Fame. Round 1, Lynn Swann, wide receiver, pick number 21, Hall of Fame. Pick number 2, second round, Jack Lambert, linebacker, in the Hall of Fame. Round 4, John Stallworth, another wide receiver, in the Hall of Fame. Mike Webster, round 5, a center, in the Hall of Fame. And last but not least, Donnie Shell, a safety. He went undrafted. So he wasn't drafted, but he went undrafted, signed as a free agent. He's in the Hall of Fame. 5 players in the Hall of Fame. I mean, you can't get better than that.
Right. All right, you got anything else?
That's all.
All right. First let's give our shout out. Shout out to Jerry. Shout out to the No Chop Podcast and Kevin for popping into the chat. Dad, where can they find you?
Find me on Mike's Up YouTube channel and on the Hurricane Mike Show every week.
Yeah, you can also find me at Hurricane Mike, Kyle Phelps, and Come On In Sports Network. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, turn the bell on too. Don't miss another future upload. And Dad, we're gonna leave them as always with a who dat. And don't be a what?
Don't be a Falcon fan. Y'all getting swept by the New Orleans Saints this year.
You know it.
2 times.
2 of them. 1, 2.